Good afternoon, and welcome to Noonday Meditation and Contemplative Prayer Power Hour. My name is Martin Coward, and we gather here every day during the pandemic to love and support each other through this crisis, through this darkness, through this what I might call the dark night of the soul for humankind. What is the dark night of the soul? The dark night of the soul is a time of great disruption. It can happen in our lives individually, and when we're in it, it's utterly devastating. It's despair, it's depression. So I want to talk about the wise woman today. And if you're joining me, I'm so glad you're here. Hey, good and great. There's my good friend Vincent. Good afternoon, Vincent. How are you doing? How is your world over there in Manhattan? And thank you again for all your service. And so glad you could be here. And like Vincent did, if you're joining us today, please just type in hello in the chat so that I know you're here. Otherwise, I just see a number on the screen. And as excited as I am to see people here, it's nice to have people join me. I like it even more if I know who you are, so I can say hello and welcome you personally. Because I'm sincere about this. We need to love and support each other through this very difficult and painful time. And I am particularly grateful for, I don't think there's any other way through it, quite frankly. And it's the wise woman, the divine feminine within all of us, that's so important. Hey, Mindy, good to see you today. Happy Tuesday, happy Tuesday. And then doing 2 weeks off, we're good in the city. It's nice to have some time away, particularly knowing what you're doing as a doctor in this world. I'm sure you're enjoying some free time to love yourself and be with your loved ones and just be and feel the love of the universe holding you and taking care of you. You know, they say that they call that the transition in childbirth. They refer to that last stage transition, and it's a transition from inside to the outside, from the old world inside the womb to the new womb. And people tell me that's the most painful and also the most dangerous. And it feels like dying, but it's also the stage that precedes a new life. And the voice of the wise woman within is what nurtured me through my dark night of the soul. A dark night of the soul is a great disruption in our lives where we might feel a sense of loss and depression and despair. Life seems to have no meaning to us. And it's painful. It's an inner state of being that's just dark and depressing. And it was the wise woman who I now call Joy, whose voice I heard, a still and powerful voice, whose voice I heard that guided me out of my personal dark night of the soul and into a new earth. And what she said to me in all of my despair was that all the suffering and all the pain, everything that I was trying to do to get myself out of the dark side, to find more pain, to actually all the things I was doing that I thought were so important, quite frankly, at the time, that I thought were so meaningful, like a lot of money and financial success. She saved me from that, because that is not the meaning of life. But I was confused by it and thought that's what it was. So it took the dark night of the soul and her guiding me through it to get to the truth. That I am the meaning of life. You are the meaning of life. Life is the meaning of life in itself. There is nothing else to do but love ourselves. And she came in with a fierce slap and said, "Wake up, Martin. You're all worried about all the wrong things. You're all upset and distracted because, all these things that you're all worried and upset about, none of that stuff matters. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you make a lot of money. It doesn't matter if you're successful. It doesn't matter if you get certified with the Mankind Project. All these things that have got you so stressed out and so upset and such despair, none of it matters. All that matters, Martin, is for you to show up. Just show up with love and gratitude, and I will do the rest. Joy, the divine, wise woman within, would do everything else. And that was the beginning. Hello, Hassan. Great. I'm just sharing my story about how the wise woman, that fiercely loving divine nature within all. My God, I don't know what the cause of that, but I'm back. Sorry for the blackout there, people. But what I was saying, Hassan, welcome to us today. I know you're from across the globe. You may be just getting home from work. And I'm just talking about right now my own personal story of how the Divine Mother, who I call Joy, the wise woman within, woke me up out of my dark night of the soul into a new earth. Because we rarely see the earth the way it is. We see the earth the way we are. We see the world the way we are, not the way it really is. And if I'm in a place of victimhood and darkness and sadness and despair, I see a world that's like that. But she woke me up to a bigger truth, that the world is truly loving and magnificent and nurturing, and there's nothing lacking. It's full of prosperity and abundance, but it's all of an inside mindset. It's a way of being in the world. And she was able to cut through all the darkness and all the sadness and all the despair to wake me up to a bigger truth and a higher purpose. And all I have to do is just show up with love and gratitude. And that's a way of self-expression, of self-love. And everything has changed in my life. I see the world completely different. And I have a sense of purpose and meaning. That's just to share my wisdom, to share my love, to share my knowledge, to make the world, to help create and move the world through this transition, to participate with the wise woman. I am participating. The wise woman, I'm surrendering my ego to the wise woman who got me, because I'm so grateful for her getting me out of the dark night of the soul. Of course, I'm going to serve her and be her voice to the world. So, and what I've observed from seeing this world is I see that there is still a lot of pain and destruction in the external world. Not really much has changed. As a matter of fact, I would say perhaps because of COVID-19 and the killing of innocent Black people by police officers, and all of the peaceful protest, all this disruption has created what seems to me like the dark night of the soul of humanity. And many of us are awake to that. And we can hear it. I'm going to suggest when we're awake, we can hear the difference between the energetic force behind what people are saying and what people are doing. When that energetic force is coming from a place of fear and cruelty and criticism, especially by people in positions of power, it makes us feel bad. It makes us feel bad. So we know it's not true, because when we feel bad, we feel powerless. And we need fiercely loving divine presence within us. We all have it. Some have met it and some have not yet. But we all have this wise woman within us. Some people call that God. Some people call that Jesus the Christ. Some people call it the Buddha. Some people call it the presence of now. Some people call it uh, whatever. Some people call it consciousness. It doesn't really matter what you call it. What it is the energetic life force that created everything that you see. And it's within us. It is the essence of who we are. And not everybody's aware of that. That's the transition. That is what happens. That is what happens when we move through the dark night of the soul. We awaken from the darkness into the light of what I'm going to call a new earth. And this is a very exciting place to be, an exciting time to be in. I mean, I don't want to get too political. That's not where I'm trying. That's not where I'm about. That's not my wheelhouse. But I can't help but notice that the loudest and the most dangerous voices in the world right now are running on fear and criticism and cruelty. And the quietest and the most powerful voices are running on empathy, compassion, and love. And if you just get stopped, if you just get still, stop and get still and listen, you will hear it. You will feel the difference. Regardless of which political party you sit in, or you're a pro-Trump person, that's not my conversation here. My invitation to you is to sit and listen and get still and listen to what you hear from the RNC and feel what you hear when you hear the DNC. And tell me if you're not hearing something profoundly different, if you're not feeling something profoundly different. Because it's the DNC's leadership and the constant and love. The common message is one of empathy and love and compassion and competency. It wasn't pointing its fingers and blaming the other side. It was just pointing to the truth of what we need to lead ourselves in this world, and the kind of leader, the kind of values we need to lead us out of the darkness and into the light. And that brings me great hope. Because when we lead from the heart, when we create a new, that leaves me hope for a new earth, a new way of being. And I don't mean some crazy utopian nonsense. The world's going to look exactly the same. We're still going to have great corporate, but people are going to lead corporations from a place of love and not from a place of fear. People are going to have to realize that they've got to add value to the world in order to get compensated. It's going to be an economy based on value addition and wealth creation, not on what can I get for myself. We're going to create an economic structure and social structures and systems that are designed to build and create wealth by adding value to the world, built in love and prosperity, because that's what we are as human beings. As beings, as humans, we might be one other thing, very egotistical people, but as beings, we are all connected to an infinite source of creativity that I'm calling the wise woman today. And how do we access this wise woman? How do we stop and get still and listen to her? A contemplative practice is how I do it. I'm not so sure how everybody does it. But for me, hold on, let me check my microphone. Something's not working right now. Hold on. Okay. You can hear me. Good. Sorry, but I've been having some technical issues with my audio visual equipment, and I'm not that technically savvy. So when I get things flashing at me, I'm like, I don't know what to do. So, but I figured it out. We're back. It's going to be working right now. So this wise woman, back to the wise woman. It keeps flashing at me and telling me it's not working. Dang it. Okay. I lose my thought when the microphone button lights up and says, you're on mute. You came unplugged, but I'm not unplugged. My apologies for the disruption, but back to the wise woman. I think I've said enough about the wise woman. Let's go. Let's see what Richard Rohr has to say this morning. This is what inspired me to think about the wise woman within me and the wise woman within you, and how we can rely on the wise woman to guide us out of this darkness and into the light. So we're going to read a little something from what came out last night from Richard Rohr. Okay, good. Okay, great. I just get these little buttons that come up, these little lights that flash up and say, your microphone's is unplugged. And I'm like, oh no. So anyway, thank you for tapping in and letting me know that you could hear me. I want to read a little bit from what inspired me to talk today, which is about the wise woman. Is from last night. What came in my email this morning from Richard Rohr from the Center of Action and Contemplation that he leads, and he's also a Franciscan brother and a Roman Catholic priest. He calls this the wisdom within. It's a series on order, disorder, and reorder. The wisdom within. Author Valerie Carr is a Sikh activist and civil rights lawyer who writes about social change through the metaphor of childbirth, both acts of revolutionary love. In her words, I find a powerful description of contemplation and action, of how we endure the pain of disorder until we find the courage and grace to enter reorder. We listen and act, rest and respond until our work is reformed by deeper wisdom. The final stage of birthing labor is the most dangerous stage and the most painful. The medical term is transition. Transition feels like dying, but it is the stage that precedes the death. Sorry, it feels like dying, but it is the stage that precedes the birth of a new life. After my labor, I begin to think about transition as a metaphor for the most difficult, fiery moments in our lives. It is in our various creative labors, making a living, raising a family, building a nation, there are moments that are so painful. Boy, is that true. We want to give up. But inside, searing pain and encroaching numbness, we might also find the depths of our courage, hearing our deepest wisdom and transition to the other side. We can learn to mother ourselves. Audre Lorde, 1934 to 1992, once declared. So I decide to practice listening to the wise woman in me. I got a blank journal and carried it with me and wrote in it every day and simply let her speak. Listening to her voice literally every few hours is how I began to practice loving myself. Here's what I discovered about the wise woman. Her voice is quiet. I have to get really quiet in order to hear her. How do I know when I'm hearing her voice? She is tender and truthful. She's not afraid of anything or anyone. She does not give me all the answers, but she does know what I need to do in the moment. To wonder, to grieve, to fight, to rage, to listen, to reimagine, to breathe or push. She helps me show up to the labor as my best self. I believe that deep wisdom resides within each of us. Some call this voice by different sacred names: Spirit, God, Jesus, Allah, Om, Buddha nature, Wahi Guru. Others think of this voice as the intuition one hears when in a calm state of mind. Whatever name we choose, listening to our deepest wisdom requires disciplined practice. There you go. Disciplined practice. The loudest voices in the world right now are running on energy of fear, criticism, and cruelty. The voices we spend the most time listening to in the world and inside our own minds shape the way we see, how we feel, and what we do. Pay very close attention to that. I'll read that again. Whatever name we choose, listening to our deepest wisdom requires disciplined practice. The loudest voices in the world right now are those that are running on the energy of fear, criticism, and cruelty. The voices we spend the most time listening to in the outside world and inside our minds shape the way we see, how we feel, and what we do. When I spend time listening to people who are speaking from their deepest wisdom, I can feel understanding, inspiration, and energy nourish the root of my own wisdom. It's like the wise woman in them is speaking to the wise woman in me. And it's like the ego in them is speaking to the fear-driven ego in me. That's how I know the difference. It's very clear to me. When I feel that icky, egoic, narcissistic feeling that I have within me coming out of somebody else's mouth, I know that's not good for me or the world. But when I hear love, compassion, empathy, understanding, nurturing, possibility, hope, when I hear the wise woman in others, it wakes up the wise woman in me. And I hope it wakes up the wise woman in you. I believe it is. I believe that's why you're here. When I spend time listening to people who are speaking from their deepest wisdom, I can feel understanding, inspiration, and energy nourish the root of my own wisdom. But I must not lose myself at the feet of others. My most vigilant spiritual practice is finding the seconds of solitude to get quiet enough to hear the wise woman in me. I thought that was beautiful and so appropriate right now as we are clearly going through a major disruption in the world. And we need that wise woman. We need to hear the wise women in others. I need to hear the wise woman in you, and I'm going to share the wise woman in me. And that's what we come together with, is to share the wise woman. I call that wise woman Joy in me. Her name is Joy. And I know when Joy's present. And I know when when I say, Joy, where in the world are you right now? I'm sure feeling lost. And I need some love. I need to come back to wisdom here. So you can't beat the old 12-step prayer. God, give me the, what is it? I can't even think of it right now. Never mind. Something about, I can't think of it. My mind's gone blank. Doesn't matter. That's enough of me talking. Let me say this too. You know, you've heard, I've done my best to share the wise woman in me, but what she said at the end is the most important thing, and that is you've got to find the moment. You got to have the discipline and the practice to get quiet and listen for the wise woman in you. And that's the invitation right now. As much as I appreciate you being here to listen to what I have to say and read more, I'm so grateful that you're here and that it makes a difference in your life. But more importantly, I want to encourage you to stick around for yeah, there you go. God grant me this. There we go. Thank you. Thank you. God grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The wise woman helps me see the difference. That's a beautifully profound prayer. And probably one of the most profound, the most succinct and profound, powerful prayers that there is. I think it was the Dalai Lama, I don't know, some wise spiritual teacher of the modern century said that the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous have done more for the planet, humankind, and spiritual enlightenment than any single religion has ever done. I think that's beautiful. So thank you, Vincent, for sharing with us that. But what I was going to say is that last piece that she said was, as nice as it is to hear my wisdom, for me to hear yours and be able to distinguish, my invitation is don't jump off now. Stick around. We're going to get quiet. We're going to get still. And we're going to listen for that quiet, still voice, that fiercely loving, powerful, still voice within ourselves to guide us through the rest of this day. And guide us through the rest of this thing. And I know it's hard because we don't want to quiet our minds. I don't want to quiet my mind all the time. But get still. And before you do, let's raise your arms in the air and just feel for a moment that life force that's in your arms, that raised your arms. Yes, you had muscles and nerves and all those body pieces, but that spark of life in you and me, that same beingness, is what raised your arms. The Divine Mother really raised your arm. That has the power to raise your arms. Because if you didn't have that life force in you, you could not raise your arms. So I'm just doing this. I want you to get to notice just how close the wise woman is within you and within us. And begin to get still. Quiet the mind. Become intentional about quieting the mind. You're never going to stop the thoughts. That's nonsense. Minds bring up thoughts. You're never going to stop the clouds from crossing the sky. You're never going to stop the thoughts from coming across your mind. But just like you can't go out there and catch a cloud, you cannot, as hard as you can, to hold on to a thought. You can hold on to it and hold on to it, but it goes away. If it's a good thought and you want to hold on to it, great. Hold on to it for a while and then let it go because it will shift. And if it's a thought that's uncomfortable, welcome that thought too and let it go. The whole idea of centering prayer is to let go. Let go of a thought, let go of an emotion, and get still and be quiet and listen. And just notice the spaces between your thoughts. Pay attention to the space before and after your thought. Sitting in the stillness, just notice. Sort of have fun with this for a moment. Don't make it don't make meditation something you have to do. Have some fun with noticing your thoughts. Notice when they come up. Notice how you attach to it. Notice how feelings come with it. That's how we attach. And notice what happens when you let it go. Just notice. Open your heart with gratitude for a thinking mind. Notice how the thoughts make you feel. And let them go. Allow yourself, give yourself permission to make this moment of contemplative prayer, this time, your primary purpose. For the next 15 minutes, your primary purpose in life is to get still and listen for the wise woman. Have a little internal adventure. Allow the sound of the gong, the sound of the bell, the interval bell, to wake you up from a trance that you might be in, to reset, go deeper within ourselves to the vibration of love. Welcome back from our little 20-minute. It goes so fast, doesn't it? From wise woman perspective, which is timelessness. Wow. Thank you for joining me today. Did you find your wise woman? Did you hear anything? If you did, tell me a little bit about what you discovered in the chat box. Just say hello. What did you find? How are you feeling? You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you. There's so much more to life than what we can see, taste, touch, and feel with our human senses. That's where all the magic is. That's where all the transformation is. That's where all the change takes place. That's how we create. And together we are creating a new earth. Not some crazy utopian society, but a real grounded earth. An earth, a place that's not toxic. A place that's loving, nurturing, and supportive of all people. Where lives matter. Black lives matter. All lives matter. More than money. Everybody wants to get our economy back together, but we want to get it back from together from a new place of love and collaboration between people and corporations to add more value into the world and create more wealth for everyone. Recognize the value that everybody has to bring to the surface and create an environment, systems, and structures that support that opportunity for everyone. This is an exciting time to live. So my invitation is to take out your journal and spend the next 10 minutes reflecting on the wise woman within you. Maybe you want to do what she suggested in her talk or his talk. I forgot who was talking about that. They began to take a journal and just write conversations they had with the wise woman. I do. I do. So thank you for letting me share the wise woman in me. I hope you heard it. I hope you heard her. And hope the wise woman in you listened and heard it. But more importantly, during the 20 minutes of quiet, that you heard the wise woman within you. Because that's what your power is. And we need everyone full of power, full of love, full of encouragement, full of support to get us back into the light. It's an energetic force of love, creativity. Sure is fun. Sure is exciting. And I'm so glad you're here. May love and prosperity prevail.